The city woman called the hillbilly a dumbass, but she didn't expect what would happen next. Amanda Parker slammed on the brakes hard, making the dust from the dirt road rise in clouds around her imported car. Her heart was racing with anger and impatience. This trip to the countryside of Colorado was already a nightmare, and now there was a man with a hat standing right in the middle of the road with his old pickup truck, completely blocking the way. She got out of the vehicle with her heels sinking into the dry dirt, adjusted her sunglasses, and shouted in the direction of the man who seemed to be watching something ahead. "Hey, you there! Get that jalopy out of the way. Can't you see there are people in a hurry here?" The man turned slowly with a calm smile on his sun-tanned face. He must have been about 40, wearing a simple plaid shirt and faded jeans. His brown eyes had a tranquility that irritated Amanda even more. "Good morning, ma'am. The bridge up ahead collapsed with yesterday's rains. There's no way through," he said, tipping his hat in a polite gesture. Amanda let out a sarcastic laugh. "Of course you'd make up an excuse. People like you shouldn't even have a driver's license. Get out of the way, you dumb hillbilly." The words came out with so much venom that the wind itself seemed to stop for a moment. The man didn't lose his smile, just shook his head with understanding. "If you insist, you can try to get through. But the bridge really did collapse. I was just waiting for other cars to arrive to warn them." Amanda went back to the car, slamming the door hard. "These country folks think they can fool me," she murmured, starting the engine and stepping hard on the accelerator. 5 minutes later she was back, her face red with shame and anger. The bridge had indeed collapsed, leaving only debris of wood and twisted iron over the creek running below. To make matters worse, in a desperate attempt to turn around on the narrow road, her imported car had gotten stuck in the soft mud on the side. The man with the hat approached calmly, as if he had been expecting it. "Need some help?" Amanda wanted to disappear under the ground. Her whole life had been built on control, on always being right, on never depending on anyone. And now she was there, on a lost country road, depending on the very person she had insulted minutes before. My car is stuck," she managed to say, swallowing her pride with difficulty. "I'll get a rope from my pickup. Don't worry, this happens a lot around here after the rain." As he prepared the towing equipment, Amanda tried to process the situation. She was one of the top executives at a financial consulting firm in New York City, used to solving problems worth millions of dollars. But there, in that godforsaken place, she was just a lost woman who needed the help of a hillbilly. "All right, let's try now," said the man, connecting the rope between the two vehicles. "By the way, my name is Jack Miller, but everyone calls me Jack." "Amanda," she replied dryly, still fighting the humiliation. With some careful maneuvering, her car was free from the mud. Amanda inspected the damage, trying to calculate how much the cleaning and possible repairs would cost. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. "Where were you headed? Maybe I can help you find another way," offered Jack, wiping his hands on an old rag. Amanda hesitated. Her mission there wasn't something she liked to share, especially with strangers. She had been sent by the company to evaluate rural properties in default, paving the way for possible mortgage foreclosures. "Pinecrest Ranch, do you know it?" Jack's smile changed subtly, as if a cloud had passed over the sun. "Yes, I know it. I was heading there myself." "Do you work there?" asked Amanda, surprised. "In a way." "It's complicated," he replied, walking back to his pickup truck. "If you want, you can follow me. I know an alternate route." The trip that should have taken 20 minutes stretched to over an hour, winding along back roads Amanda never would have imagined existed. Through the rearview mirror, she watched Jack's old pickup truck, trying to understand why a seemingly simple man knew so much about that region. When they finally came within sight of Pinecrest Ranch, Amanda felt a tightness in her chest. The property was much larger than she had imagined, with acres of pasture stretching as far as the eye could see. The main house, though in need of repairs, maintained the grandeur of colonial American architecture. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" said Jack, approaching her car. "My great-grandparents built the main house with their own hands, brick by brick." Amanda froze. "Your great-grandparents?" "The Thompson family was one of the founders of this region. My great-grandfather, Robert James Thompson, came here in 1890 with the dream of building something lasting," he explained, looking at the property fondly. "This land has been in our family for over 100 years." Amanda's chest tightened even more. Thompson. The surname was in the dossier she carried in her briefcase. Pinecrest Ranch belonged to Jack Miller Thompson, a landowner who had lost the ability to repay loans taken out years earlier to modernize the property. "Are you the Jack Miller Thompson from the case?" she asked, her voice coming out weaker than she intended. "The very one. And let me guess, you came here to tell me I'm going to lose my ancestors' land." Amanda couldn't respond. The entire dynamic of the situation had completely changed. The dumb hillbilly she had insulted was precisely the person whose life she was there to destroy. Before she could fully process the situation, her cell phone rang. The name Mercy Medical Center appeared on the screen, making her blood run cold. "Hello? Amanda? This is Nurse Rachel. Your mother was admitted here an hour ago. She fell ill at home and the neighbor called an ambulance." The world seemed to spin around Amanda. Her mother, Mrs. Betty, 72 years old, had lived alone in Denver since the loss of her husband 5 years earlier. Amanda always worried, but her mother was stubborn and refused to move to New York City. "How is she? What happened?" "She's stable now, but needs to be kept for observation. It was a severe drop in blood pressure. It would be good if you could come." Amanda looked around, desperate. Denver was almost 3 hours away, and she knew nothing about the region. To make matters worse, her car had suffered from getting stuck and she wasn't sure it would hold up for a long trip. "Problems?" asked Jack, who had noticed her agitation. "My mother, she's in the hospital in Denver. I need to get there urgently." To her surprise, Jack didn't hesitate. "Come with me. I know a shortcut that cuts the time in half. My pickup may not be pretty, but it's reliable." Amanda looked at him confused. "Why would you help me? I insulted you, and now you've found out I came here to do your job," he finished. "I hold no grudges, Amanda, and your mother needs you now." The trip to Denver was surreal. Amanda, accustomed to the comfort of imported cars, was squeezed into the worn seat of the old pickup truck, while Jack masterfully navigated roads that didn't even appear on the GPS. He knew every curve, every shortcut, every alternate bridge. "How do you know these roads so well?" she asked, trying to break the tense silence. "I grew up here. My father always said that a man must know his land like the lines on his own hand," he replied, his eyes fixed on the road. "Besides, I've been driving these parts for over 20 years, taking farm products to sell in the city." "Farm products?" "Cheese, milk, some vegetables. It's not much, but it helps supplement the income," he explained naturally. Amanda felt even smaller. While she had judged this man as a dumb hillbilly, he was there, working hard to sustain a century-old family property and care for his community. She, on the other hand, spent her days in air-conditioned offices, calculating ways to take land from people like him. Mercy Medical Center appeared on the horizon after an hour and 40 minutes of travel, almost half the time it would have taken by the conventional route. Amanda jumped out of the pickup truck before it even came to a complete stop. "Thank you," she said quickly, running toward the hospital entrance. "I'll be here," Jack shouted after her. Amanda found her mother on the third-floor room, connected to some monitoring equipment, but conscious and speaking softly with a nurse. Upon seeing her daughter, Mrs. Betty smiled with relief. "Amanda, my dear, what a fright you must have had." "Mom, how are you feeling? What happened?" "Oh, my dear, it was just a silly thing. I got up too quickly from bed and got dizzy. Mrs. Jenkins, my neighbor, was terrified and called the ambulance." The nurse explained that it had indeed been a drop in blood pressure, possibly caused by dehydration and the excessive heat. Nothing serious, but it would be important to keep her under observation for a few hours to ensure there were no complications. "Amanda, who is that young man who brought you?" asked Mrs. Betty, pointing to the window. Amanda looked and saw Jack in the parking lot, leaning against the pickup truck, apparently waiting to make sure everything was all right. The image touched her in an unexpected way. It's an acquaintance, Mum. He helped me get here quickly." "What a polite man. He rode up in the elevator with me, and introduced himself very respectfully. He said he knew our family. Amanda stopped breathing for a second. Knew our family. Jack Miller Thompson. He said his parents knew your father many years ago. I don't remember the details well. My memory isn't what it used to be, but I'm sure I've heard that name before. The world seemed to spin again. Amanda knew very little about her father's past. He had died when she was just 15, and her mother rarely spoke about life before marriage. Mrs. Betty always said they were memories too painful. Mom, what exactly do you remember about knowing the Thompson family? Mrs. Betty closed her eyes, trying to access old memories. Your father worked in the countryside for a few years before you were born. He had a partnership with someone in a small company, something related to land and agriculture. But it all went wrong. We lost everything. That's why we came to Denver. Lost everything how? I don't know the details well, dear. Your father never wanted to talk about it. He said he was betrayed by someone he trusted. He became very bitter, never wanted anything to do with business in the countryside again. Amanda felt a chill down her spine. Could there be some connection between her father's story and the current situation of the Thompson family? Was it just a coincidence that she had been assigned specifically to evaluate their property? She went down to the parking lot, her head spinning with possibilities and doubts. Jack was exactly where she had seen him, like a silent guardian. "How is she?" he asked as soon as he saw her approaching. "Stable. It was just a drop in blood pressure. Thank you for getting me here so quickly. I'm glad she's okay. Your mother is a very kind lady." "Jack," Amanda hesitated, "my mother said you knew our family, that you mentioned knowing my father." Jack nodded slowly. "Robert Parker. He was partners with my father in some businesses over 30 years ago." "What kind of businesses?" "Agricultural consulting. They had a small company that helped local ranchers modernize their properties and secure financing. It worked well for a few years." "What happened?" Jack looked toward the horizon, as if seeing the past unfold before his eyes. "They were betrayed by someone they trusted. A man named Richard Anderson, who worked as the company's lawyer. He forged documents, embezzled client funds, and when it all came to light, he blamed my parents and your father. The name Richard Anderson hit Amanda like a punch to the gut. She knew that name very well. Richard Anderson was the founder of the company where she worked now, Anderson and Partners. He had died 5 years earlier, leaving the company to his children, but his reputation in the industry was impeccable. "Are you sure about that name? Richard Anderson?" "Absolutely. He destroyed the lives of many good people back then. My father never fully recovered from the blow. He died 10 years later, still blaming himself for trusting the wrong man." Amanda had to lean against the pickup truck. Her entire professional world, her entire career, had been built on the legacy of a man who had betrayed and destroyed her own father and Jack's family. "Amanda, are you all right? You've gone pale." She couldn't speak. Anderson and Partners wasn't just her job, it was her identity. She had worked hard for 15 years to reach the position of executive director, believing she was serving an honest and respectable company. "The company where I work," she began, her voice trembling. "Anderson and Partners. Richard Anderson was my mentor for years before he passed away." Jack looked at her with a mixture of surprise and understanding. "Fate has these ironies, doesn't it? Does this mean the debt on your ranch, this whole situation, probably originates from the same scheme decades ago? Richard Anderson was clever. He created problems so he could later offer solutions. He bet that with time, people would forget the past." Amanda felt nauseated. How many other families were being harmed by artificially created debts? How many properties had the company illegally taken over the years? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. "I need to go back to the ranch with you," she said, her voice gaining determination. "I need to see the documents, understand exactly what happened. Amanda, you don't need to get involved in this. I know you were just doing your job." "No, Jack, this isn't just about work. It's about justice, and about discovering the truth about my father." The trip back to the ranch was made in silence. Amanda called the hospital twice to check on her mother's condition, who was stable and would be released the next day. Jack offered her lodging at the ranch, since the only hotel in the area was 50 miles away. "I have a guest room. It's simple, but clean," he said. "Thank you. I think I'll need time to analyze everything calmly." The main house of Pinecrest Ranch seemed even bigger up close. The thick adobe walls and high ceilings spoke of a time when things were built to last for generations. Jack showed Amanda a room with old but well-maintained furniture. "My mother always kept this room ready for visitors," he explained. "She died 3 years ago, but I still keep the house the way she liked it. Do you live here alone?" "Now I do. My wife, she passed away 5 years ago. Cancer. It was after that everything started to fall apart financially. The treatments used up all our savings. Amanda felt a weight in her chest. Here was a man who had lost his wife to a terrible illness, fought to save her at any cost, and was now about to lose the family land too because of fraudulent maneuvers. I'm so sorry for your loss." "Thank you." Sarah was a special woman, a teacher at the local school, taught half the children in the region. They had dinner in the large kitchen of the house, a simple meal of rice, beans, fried eggs, and vegetables from the garden. Amanda hadn't eaten home-cooked food like that in years. In New York City, she lived off business lunches at expensive restaurants or delivery food. "Jack, do you have the original documents from your father's dealings with mine?" "I have everything stored in the office. My father was very organized, kept all the papers. He always said the truth would come out one day." After dinner, they went to a small office at the back of the house. The walls were covered with shelves of files organized by year. Jack pulled out a cardboard box yellowed with time. "Here are the original partnership contracts between our fathers," he said, handing Amanda some documents. Amanda examined the papers with a lawyer's eye. Right on the first pages, it was clear that her father and Jack's father had a solid, well-structured partnership. They had created the company Parker and Thompson Agricultural Consulting with the goal of helping small landowners modernize their ranches. "Look at this," said Jack, showing a letter. "It's from Richard Anderson to my father, offering his services as the company's lawyer." Amanda read the letter, recognizing the elegant and calculating handwriting she saw in old firm documents. Richard Anderson presented himself as an ambitious young lawyer, specialized in agricultural law and rural financing. "For the first 2 years, everything went well," Jack continued. "The company prospered, helped dozens of families, until Richard started suggesting more aggressive investments." "What kind of investments?" "He convinced our fathers to use the land as collateral for bigger loans, promising the profits would be fantastic. Said he had contacts in the banks that he could get special terms." Amanda kept reading the documents. It was clear Richard Anderson had gradually manipulated the partnership, taking more control of the financial operations. In a particularly revealing letter, he suggested the partners leave the legal and banking aspects to him to focus. "Here it is," said Jack, handing over another document. "The contract that ruined everything." It was a loan agreement for $500,000 at the time, a fortune by standards 30 years ago. The lands of both families were listed as collateral, but there was something strange about the signatures. "Jack, do these signatures look fake to you?" He examined the document closely. "That is not my father's handwriting. I knew his penmanship better than anyone. And this one here doesn't look like my father's either," said Amanda, comparing it to other documents. "Richard forged the signatures to get the loan. And when the scheme came to light, he put all the blame on our fathers, said they had authorized everything, that they had run off with the money." Amanda felt anger growing inside her. Where is the money now? What happened to it? Richard used it to start his own firm. Anderson and Partners was founded exactly 1 year after our disaster, with a mysteriously abundant starting capital. The pieces were falling like dominoes. The company where Amanda had built her career, where she believed she was doing honest work, had literally been built upon the blood and sweat of the Parker and Thompson families. "Is there anything else I should know?" she asked, fearing the answer. Jack hesitated for a moment, then opened another drawer and took out a sealed envelope. "My father made me promise I would only open this if someone from the Parker family ever made contact again. With trembling hands, Amanda opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter and some old photographs. The letter began, "To the Parker family, especially to the daughter of my dear partner Robert." Amanda read aloud, "If you're reading this, it means you've finally discovered the truth about Richard Anderson. Robert was more than my partner. He was my brother in heart. We planned for our children to grow up together, perhaps even marry one day, uniting our families forever." The photographs showed the two young fathers working side by side on the ranch, building fences, planting trees. In one photo, they held a sign, "Parker and Thompson, building the future of American agriculture." "Amanda, there's more," said Jack softly. The letter continued. "Richard didn't just steal our money. He destroyed our dreams, our friendship, our faith in humanity. Robert became so depressed he never wanted to hear about agricultural business again. He died carrying the guilt for something he never did." Amanda couldn't hold back her tears. She finally understood why her father always seemed so melancholy, why he never spoke about the past, why he had become a bitter man in his final years. "Jack, did you know all this when you met me on the road today?" "No. I only knew when you said your full name, Amanda Parker. My father always spoke of Robert's daughter, said she would be an intelligent and determined woman. And even knowing who I was, you helped me get to the hospital. Amanda, you're not responsible for Richard Anderson's mistakes, and your mother needed you." His generosity left her speechless. That man she had called a dumb hillbilly possessed a nobility of character she rarely encountered in her corporate world. "Is there anything I can do to fix this? To right the wrongs of the past? The only thing I want is to keep my family's land. This ranch is all I have left of my parents, my wife, my history." Amanda stayed up all night, studying all the documents, taking notes, mentally building a legal case. By morning, she had made a decision that would completely change her life. "Jack, I'm going to resign from my position at Anderson and Partners," she announced during breakfast. "Amanda, you don't have to do that. I know it's your job, your career. Not anymore. I can't keep working for a company built upon the destruction of our families. And, more importantly, I'm going to use everything I know about the company's practices to help you and other harmed families." "How?" "I have access to internal files, I know the procedures, I know where the weak points in the contracts are. We're going to prove your debt is fraudulent and get back everything that was stolen from our families." Jack looked at her with a mixture of admiration and concern. "This could ruin your career, Amanda. Are you sure?" "Some things are more important than career, like honor, justice, and righting the wrongs of the past." The trip back to Denver was different from the first one. Amanda drove her own car, which Jack had completely serviced overnight while he followed in his pickup truck. She needed to pick up her mother from the hospital and then return to New York City to organize her strategy. Mrs. Betty was excited and ready to be discharged when they arrived. Seeing Jack again made her even more excited. "What a polite young man, Amanda, you've chosen a good friend. Mom, I need to tell you some things about Dad and Jack's family." During the drive from Denver to Mrs. Betty's house, Amanda told the whole story. Her mother cried when she learned about the betrayal that had destroyed her husband's life, but was happy to discover that there would finally be a chance for justice. "Your father would be so proud of you, my dear. He always said you had the grit to fix the world's injustices. Mom, I'll need to be away from New York City for a while handling this case. Would you be all right alone?" Mrs. Betty looked at Jack through the rearview mirror. "Actually, I was thinking, it's been a while since I visited the countryside. How about I spend a few weeks at the ranch helping you with the house and cooking? These old hands still know their way around a kitchen." Jack smiled genuinely for the first time since Amanda had met him. "It would be an honor to have you with us, Mrs. Betty." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. 2 weeks later, Amanda was back at Pinecrest Ranch, but this time as a completely different woman. She had officially resigned from her position at Anderson and Partners, causing a scandal in New York City's financial market. Her colleagues couldn't understand how anyone could abandon such a promising career, but Amanda had found something more valuable, than professional prestige. Working side by side with Jack, she discovered a passion for agricultural law that she never knew existed. More importantly, she discovered she could use her skills to protect people like him instead of harming them. "Amanda, more documents arrived today," said Jack, handing her a stack of letters. "Other families in the area heard what we're doing and want help." She examined the envelopes. All contained similar stories: rural properties lost to suspicious debts, families evicted from ancestral lands, contracts with abusive clauses. The pattern was always the same, always involving Anderson and Partners or associated companies. "Jack, this is bigger than we imagined. It's not just about our families. It's a systematic scheme that's been operating for decades." "What are we going to do?" "We're going to build a class action lawsuit, gather all the affected families and sue the company for ongoing fraud." Mrs. Betty, who had adapted perfectly to rural life, brought them fresh coffee. "You two work too much. It's almost midnight." "Thank you, Mom. Just a few more documents and we'll stop for today." "Amanda," said Jack when Mrs. Betty left, "I have a confession to make." She stopped reading and looked at him intently. "What is it?" "When you called me a dumb hillbilly that first day, I wasn't offended. I was actually impressed." "Impressed? Why?" "Because even though you were rude, you had fire in your eyes, determination. I knew right then you were Robert Parker's daughter. He had the same flame when he fought for something he believed in." Amanda felt her face grow warm. Over the past few weeks, working so closely, she had developed a deep admiration for Jack. He was smart, kind, hard-working, and possessed a wisdom that came from life experience, not books. "Jack, I want to apologize to you, not just for the words that day, but for all the prejudices I had. You taught me that a person's worth has nothing to do with a diploma or a bank account. And you taught me that not all city folk are the same, that there are still people willing to fight for justice, even when it comes at a high cost." They looked at each other in silence for a moment, sensing that something had changed between them. It was no longer just about righting past wrongs. It was about building something new together. The next day, news arrived that would change everything. A private investigator that Amanda had hired to track Richard Anderson's assets discovered that the businessman had left a confessional letter in his will, admitting to the frauds committed throughout his career. "Amanda, you need to see this," said Jack excitedly. The investigator found the full confession. Richard Anderson's letter was devastating. In it, he admitted to forging documents, embezzling funds, and harming dozens of rural families over 30 years. More importantly, he included a detailed list of all properties taken illegally and where the documents proving the frauds were located. "Look at this part," said Amanda, reading aloud. "My greatest regret was destroying the partnership between Robert Parker and James Thompson. They were honest men who only wanted to help their community. I used their trust to build my empire of lies." Why did he keep this confession? Guilt, perhaps, or fear that one day the truth would come out and he would need a bargaining chip. With the confession in hand, Amanda had everything she needed to completely destroy Anderson and Partners and recover the stolen properties. But there was a problem. Richard Anderson's children had no knowledge of their father's criminal activities. "Amanda, are you sure you want to do this?" asked Jack. "It will destroy the lives of innocent people. The children aren't guilty of their father's crimes, but the company must pay for the damages caused. We'll structure the lawsuit to protect innocent employees and focus on restitution for the victims." The case gained national attention when Amanda filed the class action lawsuit. 23 rural families joined together to sue Anderson and Partners for fraud, embezzlement, and emotional damages. The local media extensively covered the story, especially the human interest angle of the executive, who abandoned her career to seek justice. During the 6 months of legal proceedings, Amanda and Jack worked tirelessly, traveling throughout the countryside of Colorado to document similar cases and gather evidence. Mrs. Betty became the official cook of Operation Justice, as she called it, feeding lawyers, witnesses, and journalists who visited the ranch. "Amanda," said Jack one evening, after a particularly difficult day in court, Have you thought about what you'll do after all this is over? Honestly? No. My whole life has been planned down to the last detail. For the first time, I'm taking it one day at a time. And how does that feel? Scary and liberating at the same time. They were sitting on the porch of the main house, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. The property had changed a lot in recent months. With Mrs. Betty's help, Jack had renovated the house, planted a larger vegetable garden, and even built a small guest cottage. Jack, can I ask you a personal question? Of course. Have you ever thought about getting married again? He was silent for a long moment. Sarah always said that if anything happened to her, I should find someone to be happy with again, but I never imagined it would be possible. And now I know an extraordinary woman who has completely changed my perspective on many things. Amanda felt her heart race. What kind of woman? A woman who had the courage to abandon everything she knew to fight for justice. A woman who called me a dumb hillbilly and then became my partner in the most important fight of my life. They kissed right there, on the porch where generations of the Thompson family had dreamed of the future. It was a kiss that sealed not only their love, but the union of two families that destiny had kept apart for decades. 3 months later, the court issued the final ruling. Anderson and Partners was ordered to pay millions in compensation to the affected families and return all properties taken illegally. The total amount of reparations exceeded $50 million. Jack not only fully recovered Pinecrest Ranch, but also received compensation that allowed him to modernize the entire property. More importantly, his honor and the memory of his father were completely restored. Amanda used part of her compensation to establish a law firm specializing in agricultural law, offering free services to small landowners. The office was set up on the ranch itself, in a new building constructed specifically for that purpose. "Mrs. Amanda," said Mrs. Betty, 6 months after the ruling, "Mr. Jack is out in the pasture waiting for you." Amanda left the house wearing leather boots, jeans, and a simple shirt. Her hair, once always tied in executive buns, now flowed loose in the wind. She had discovered a natural beauty she never knew she possessed. Jack was waiting near the spot where they had first met on the dirt road. But now there was a new bridge over the creek, built with funds from the compensation. "Amanda, there's something I want to show you," he said, leading her to a nearby small hill. At the top of the hill there was a hand-carved wooden sign, "Parker and Thompson, fulfilling our parents' dreams." "Jack, what is this?" "Our future. I want to expand the ranch, create a training center for sustainable agriculture. I want to fulfill the dreams our parents had together. And do you think I fit into these plans?" In response, Jack knelt right there, on top of the hill, and pulled out a simple gold ring from his pocket. "Amanda Parker, you changed my life in a way I never thought possible. Will you marry me and build this dream together?" Amanda couldn't speak for a few seconds, too emotional to form words. Finally, she managed to say, "Yes, Jack. Yes, I will." The wedding was held at the ranch itself 3 months later. Over 200 people attended, including all the families who had benefited from the lawsuit. The ceremony was simple but full of meaning. Mrs. Betty, radiant in a light blue dress, walked her daughter to the makeshift altar in the main house's garden. The local priest, who had known the Thompson family for decades, spoke about how true love can blossom even from the most unlikely encounters. "You two have proven that sometimes we need to get completely lost to find our true path," said the priest during the ceremony. After the ceremony, during the party that lasted until dawn, Amanda reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought her there. A year ago, she was an ambitious executive, driving an imported car and looking down on people like Jack. Now she was a passionate rural lawyer, married to the man who had transformed her perspective on everything. "Mrs. Thompson," whispered Jack in her ear as they danced. "How does that name sound?" "Perfect," she replied. "Absolutely perfect." 2 years later, Pinecrest Ranch had become a model of sustainable agriculture and social justice in the region. The training center created by Amanda and Jack had already trained over 300 small landowners in modern farming techniques and financial management. Amanda discovered she had a natural talent for teaching and became a respected speaker at universities and events about agricultural law. Jack, in turn, expanded his activities to include sustainable rural tourism, offering urban visitors the chance to experience life in the countryside. "Amanda, we have a visitor," said Mrs. Betty, who at 75 remained the soul of the house. At the main gate of the ranch stood an elegant woman with sunglasses next to an imported car. Amanda immediately recognized the type, urban executive, probably here for some corporate negotiation. "Good afternoon," said the visitor with a slightly condescending tone. "I'm looking for the owners of this ranch. I represent a group of investors interested in acquiring land in the region." Amanda and Jack exchanged glances, remembering how it all began. Amanda approached the visitor with a genuine smile. "I'm Amanda Thompson, one of the owners. How can I help you?" "Thompson?" The woman seemed surprised. "I thought I'd find some more traditional rancher here." "Appearances can be deceiving," said Amanda gently. "Why don't you come in so we can talk? I have an interesting story to tell you." As Amanda led the visitor to the house, Jack smiled, remembering how an arrogant woman had arrived there 3 years earlier, and how everything had changed since then. Sometimes life's greatest gifts came disguised as problems. The visitor left the ranch 2 hours later, with a thoughtful expression and a business card from Amanda's agricultural law office. She had listened carefully to the story of the ranch's transformation and seemed to be re-evaluating her own priorities. "Do you think we planted a seed of reflection?" asked Jack. "I hope so," replied Amanda. "After all, that's exactly how it all started for us." That evening, sitting on the same porch where they had first kissed, Amanda and Jack watched the stars shining over the ranch. Mrs. Betty had retired early, leaving them alone with their thoughts. "Jack, do you regret anything?" "Not a thing. Not even that first day when you called me a dumb hillbilly." "Why?" "Because that moment of anger showed who you really were inside. A passionate, determined woman, capable of fiercely fighting for what you believe in. You just needed to find the right cause, and you helped me find that cause. We helped each other. You taught me that I can dream big without losing my roots. I taught you that true happiness doesn't come from what you possess, but from who you are." Amanda rested her head on her husband's shoulder, feeling completely at peace. Her life had taken a turn she had never planned, but which proved far more rewarding than any corporate career could offer. "You know what amazes me most about this whole story?" she said. "What?" "How our parents turned out to be right in the end. They dreamed of uniting our families, and fate found a way to make that dream come true even after decades. They would be proud of us. I'm sure of it." End of story. And you, what did you think of this story of transformation and redemption? Did Amanda make the right decision by abandoning her career to fight for justice? Tell us your opinion about how prejudice can blind us to people's true qualities. Leave your comment with your honest reflections. Thank you so much for staying with us until the end. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories like this one.